In the space of a few weeks, you'll become one of the most famous politicians on the planet. But I want to start with explaining the man, the personality behind the public face. So, where did you grow up in Catalonia? When did you come to believe that Catalonia should be an independent country?
Well, I was born during the Franco's dictatorship, till 12 or 13 years old. So my first school was during this era, when, for example, my language, Catalan, was prohibited. After the Franco's death, there was a very huge movement, democratic movement. I feel that the world that starts at this moment, it's calling me. It's something about me and my future. I was engaged to build a new society.
You started your career as a journalist.
Yes.
Before you moved into politics. What provoked you to move from journalism to recounting events to actually making events?
Well, you're a journalist, no? You come from politics to journalist.
I've gone in the other direction.
Well, I'm still a journalist. In fact, I'm a member of the College of Journalists of Catalonia. My point of view is also still one of a journalist point of view. It's not a politician only. I think that helped me to make politics in our era. Our era is the era of the communications.
It's now almost 2 years since you became president of Catalonia. I know when I was First Minister of Scotland, it was the most enormous honour and responsibility.
It was.
But over that period, how many times have you tried to get Sr. Rajoy, the government of Spain, to agree to an agreed democratic vote, a referendum, in the same way as I persuaded David Cameron in Scotland and Westminster back in 2012 to have an agreed formulation to discuss and decide an issue? How many times?
Well, obviously, Mr. Rajoy is not David Cameron, and Spain is not UK. Directly, I tried to offer to Mr. Rajoy directly twice, front of Mr. Rajoy during 2 meetings, and publicly a lot of times. I offer an agreement about the date of this referendum. The question, the majority that we need in order to proclaim independence or not, and also, an agreement for a generation, despite the results. Well, they said me, the last time that I proposed directly to Mr. Rajoy, they said, well, in reality, I can't, and I don't want. This is one of the most important problems in the Spanish state. You have the duty to put solutions on the table and to start discussions about how we can solve this problem.
But many people watching will be puzzled to hear your account, because the traditional view, the view of the Spanish government, the view internationally has been that the balance of opinion in Catalonia has been against independence. So if Sr. Rajoy was so confident of that, then why didn't he agree to the vote?
Well, because probably that is not true. Because they know perfectly there are a huge majority in Catalonia that doesn't accept the current situation. The mentality of the Spanish state, and particularly from Mr. Rajoy, looks unity of Spain like a religion. It's not a political matter. It's a spiritual or religion question about faith. So there is an incapability, intellectual incapacity, to admit the possibility, the real possibility that Spain could be different in the future.
Let's take you to that day, that extraordinary day on the 1st of October. And tell me what your emotions were that day. On the one hand, there was the celebration of millions of your fellow country people coming out to exercise a vote for self-determination. On the other hand, there was the violence that we all saw on our television screens from the state police. So what were conflicting emotions that you felt as president of Catalonia on that famous day?
Well, there was a day of the victory of Catalonia against the repression, the persecution of the Spanish state. On the other hand, of course, there was a day of the extremely violence. I couldn't imagine the reaction like that from the democratic state in European Union. For me, it was unimaginable. It was not possible in my mind. We are prepared to confront some judicial decisions in order to discuss in the Constitutional Court about our decisions, but not the use of violence, because the people was very peaceful. All this process, come from the beginning of the process, was extremely peaceful movement, and we show in face of all the world our commitment to peace, on democracy. And the answer come from the Spanish state, for me, was a first signal that the things could be, the Spain could use the violence, the repression, in order to stop a democratic revolution. It was a tragic day to do, because I see directly the violence in my face. The school in my hometown, there are a lot of injuries, a lot of injuries.
It is deeply ingrained, your argument would be, in the pursuit of independence for Catalonia, that it must be a peaceful process at all costs.
We don't want to be founded by using the violence. It's the only possibility to be independent is through the democracy. If the majority of Catalan people want to be independent, of course, Catalonia will be independent. It's not only my commitment, personal commitment, but the Catalan society, the Catalan people are deeply committed to use only the way of democracy, to not jump in the provocation of the Spanish state in order to transform the Catalan streets in like a war field. We must resist this provocation.
And then an overwhelming victory for independence, but the brave new republic really only lasted a weekend. How did you feel that day when you declared a Catalan republic?
Well, of course, it was not for us. It was a very serious moment, a very important moment, and very historical moment. For it was not a party. It was a moment for our generation, for our lives, for our biographies, for our also our commitment as politicians. It was a day of honor, because in this day we make possible all that we said before.
By the start of the next week, the Spanish judicial system rolled into action and took away the constitutional prize that Catalonia had gained.
Well, this mistake, in fact, starts a new era. In the end of this era, that will start a Catalan Republic, because in these conditions it's not possible. There is no future for Catalonia to remain in Spain in these conditions.
But Mr. President, you're now in a position where you're in exile with many of your ministers here in Brussels. Many of your other ministers are in jail in Spain. How can you be so confident about the outcome given that situation?
Well, have you seen the streets of Barcelona last week? Full of people demanding freedom. There is no one demands freedom for criminals. We are not criminals. We are politicians, are legal and legitimate representatives of Catalan people.
And are you confident that the forces of independence can prevail at the Catalan elections in December?
That is true. I'm confident in this victory. But I want to ask the Spanish state, and also the European authorities, if they will accept a result like this. If the independence movements or forces are the majority in the next Catalan parliament, is the Spanish state ready to accept?
So this is a direct challenge to Senior Rajoy You're challenging him, given that he's called this election. Will he accept the result?
Exactly. Not only for the Mariano Rajoy, also for the European authorities. Because if the majority of Catalan people want to be independent, well, this is a real answer. This is a reality. And we must make politics with the reality, not with a fantasy. Of course, I think the Spanish government and the European authorities would like a Catalonia without people who want independence, but it's real. And if in the next elections we will win, that I propose to the Mr. Rajoy, Mr. Juncker, Mr. Tajani, to accept and to start a new era of dialogue and negotiation about this reality.
Many people have commented on the position in Catalonia, including the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, who has said that he wants to see a negotiated settlement. Were you encouraged to hear that statement from the Secretary General? And do you think that is a possible route to advance the Catalan cause?
Yes, of course. There is no possibility to achieve this process without negotiation. And I propose to talk about this also in the United Nations. There is an opportunity to make something helpful for all of us from the United Nations, from Secretary General of the United Nations, is to provoke, to invite us to start talks and negotiations.
Mr. President, you've challenged Senor Rajoy to accept the result of the December elections. You've challenged the European Union to respect democracy in Catalonia. You've said that the United Nations could see advantages in the success of a peaceful movement. But you're a president of a country. What is your message to the people of Catalonia?
We must be confident, resilient, because we will win. We will succeed. Finally, democracy will prevail.
Mr. President, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Strong stuff from Carles Puigdemont. Let me be clear about 2 points. One, if Senor Rajoy of Spain would like a right of reply, then this chair is absolutely available to him for next week's show. And two, and this may be a surprise to many watching, I have never called for Catalan independence. Not because I'm not sympathetic, obviously I am, but Scotland is not Catalonia, and Catalonia is not Scotland. It is for the people of Catalonia to decide their own future, or at least it should be. What I've called for is the right of the people to decide freely and fairly. They should be able to vote for or against independence without state police batons raining down their heads, without old age pensioners being beaten up, without women being dragged downstairs, without rubber bullets, without thugs in police uniforms seizing ballot boxes, without the courts being used for political purposes, and without democratic politicians being locked up for being, well, democratic politicians. The response of the powers that are in Europe has been pathetic. State convenience takes priority over democracy. What a dangerous precedent that creates. And equally, what a lesson it would be if a movement for peaceful, democratic progress could be successful. If the people can deliver change through votes and ballots, not bombs and bullets. Democracy will prevail, says Catalonia's president. Let's hope he's right. From Tasmina and I, until the next time, goodbye for now.